Hello, everyone. Welcome to the coffee talk tonight. Tonight, we have 5 panelists. Four of them are couples, and Joshua calling in from Philippines. Daniel and Caroline are currently based in Alostar, and Ben and Rachel is based here in Penang. Tonight's topic is going to be on full-time ministry. And welcome to all the young men and young lady tonight that log in to listen to this coffee talk session. Now, some of you may be thinking about going full-time, and even if you're not, I believe that some of the principles that we talk about tonight will be applicable to you. Even if whatever future career you are thinking of, and whatever future career that God leads you towards. I also want to thank the panelists for them to be willing to invest your time Saturday night to inspire these young people here. Thank you for your time. Okay, so maybe just to give you a background of the people logging into this Zoom call, the young men and young lady, they're typically in the age range of 14 to 18 years old, around that, we have about 25 of them sign up for this whole series. Not all of them log in every Saturday. Some do, some familiar faces I see here, and some would listen to the recording after this time. Okay, I will post the recording on the link in the Ferris Park website. So even the panelists, if you want to listen to them, you can see yourself talking. Okay, with that in mind, maybe we can quickly go around and maybe I'll start with Daniel and Caroline. Can you briefly introduce yourself and also talk a little bit about your ministry that you're involved in so that the young people can get a sense of that?
Hello. Hi. I'm Daniel.
I'm Caroline.
We moved back to Alostar about 3 years ago to start this brand new church here in Alostar. I'm originally from Alostar.
I'm Indonesian from Jakarta.
Yeah, so we met in KL. I fell in love with her. I think she's the most beautiful thing ever.
Yeah.
And then we got married. And then we just followed our calling. Actually, she followed my calling, and she hopped into this dream to reach out to young people here in this city. So Alostar, for those of you in KL, all of you in Penang, right?
Penang, yeah.
I hope that you know where Alostar is. It's just 1 hour away towards the north. And we've been here, and we'll be reaching out to high schoolers mainly, and also young adults here in the city. We don't have a lot of campus students. Most of them are in Penang and also Kuala Lumpur. So we've been here. We do a lot of online work as well. We are involved in what else?
We used to be in KL, so we both of us working in church. So he was a youth pastor before, and I run a daycare. Yeah, so in 2019, early 2019, we moved here in Alostar because Daniel always has a clear vision to come back here and start a church and start a community here. We can talk about it more later, but for me, I always want to be in a full-time ministry, and God bring him to me. Someone who have a clear vision, where to go and all. So here we are in Alostar.
Yeah.
So we mainly with homeschool kids, we have a church service every Friday, but most of the time we spend time and do life with young people.
Yeah. So that's about it.
Caroline, which part of Indonesia are you from?
I'm from Jakarta.
Jakarta, huh?
Yeah, the big city.
Yeah.
And crowded.
And Daniel, you grew up in Alostar?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
My youth leader was Suhin and Rina.
Really, huh? So they inspire you to be in youth ministry?
Oh, yes, definitely.
you know, your church is what church did you grow up in
I grew
Lifestyle?
up in Trinity Baptist Church.
Okay,
I think some
that's
of
the
you
one
know.
that Suhin and Rina was there, and that's the one I think.
Yeah.
You know, my uncle lived across the street from your church.
Wow.
Long story. I'll tell you some other day.
Sure.
Interesting story that you like to hear. Okay, maybe with that we'll shift to Joshua. Can you briefly describe, yourself and your ministry? Yeah.
Uh, my audio is all good. You can hear me
Yes.
clear. Okay. Yeah. So I am Joshua. I was born and grew up in Malaysia. Born in Kuala Lumpur. Grew up in Seremban. And then for the past 11 years, I have served in 9 different nations. So I have, when I first went out to the nations, I was involved with church planting, discipleship, evangelism. But since 2016 until now, I'm involved in missions education, where I collect statistics, compile data of what is going on in the world, look at trends, talk to global leaders to understand where are we headed. And then we try to put all of those data and statistics into a way that's comprehensible to ordinary people and try to wake the church up, move them into action. That's part of what I do. I'm also a media producer. And after pre-COVID, actually during 2017 was when I started to get into media productions, because we realized that our team, 2 of my team members are actually here, Hannah and Kazaya. Our team realized that when we challenge and impact young people through sermons, messages, it doesn't really catch their attention because they are almost like 24 hours on their cell phone. Whenever they have free time, they pick up their phone and they want something to watch. So we realized if we want to get a message out to them, the best way is go to where they are. Like what Paul did, he went to the marketplace where everyone was there and started preaching right in the center. So I went into media productions because we realized that media is where the future lies. Not just young people like to watch video. A lot of I will not call them, I would say all people in this era, they like to send forward videos on WhatsApp Messenger, whether it's a real video or it's not true. They like to send videos. So I got into media productions. So we are trying to use that as a means to wake the church up, challenge them to show where is the need, and also show where God is moving. So that's what I actually do as a media producer and a missions educator, or what we call a mobilizer. Yeah.
Yeah. Joshua, can you talk a little bit about your education background, where you grew up? I know you mentioned Saramban. And
Education background. So I actually graduated from Chinese school as SMJK. I took Mandarin right up to SPM. After SPM, I actually did A-levels at MCKL, Methodist College, Kuala Lumpur. Not sure if anyone is familiar with that.
yeah,
So
we're familiar.
Okay, that's good. Actually, after A-levels, I was supposed to be studying medicine and to be a doctor. That was where I was supposed to go down. But God had other plans. I had other plans. So the journey changed drastically. I landed in Philippines when I was 21 years old. I'm turning 30 next year, so it's been a long journey out here. And over the past few years, even though I'm based in the Philippines, my work is actually Southeast Asia and Asia region. Pre-COVID, I go to different locations. So after A-levels, my education, I also did diploma in ministry. I did various certificate courses in media productions. I went for photography courses and so on. Yeah. So that's a bit about my training background.
Thank you. Now move to Ben and Rachel.
Yeah, hi, we're Ben and Rachel. We come from the US, as I think was stated earlier. We have been living in Southeast Asia for about 18, 19 years now. Originally, we were in Indonesia. Now we've been in Malaysia for the last 10 years or so. We run an organization called World Outreach International. It's a mission agency. And so we take the information that things like Joshua and his team are creating with media and with mobilization and statistics, and then go and try and launch teams into places that don't have church planters or gospel access to the gospel yet. So as an organization, we primarily focus on unreached people groups. So yeah, that's kind of what we do. So we lead the organization for that.
You mentioned you were in Indonesia before that. Was it with the same organization?
Yeah, same organization.
Yeah. What were you doing there?
Oh, well, we were field workers. We were actually ministry workers at that time, and we lived in the jungles of Kalimantan, so far away from Jakarta. We were in the jungle, and we had a children's ministry, so we had about 600 acres of land that we were developing in the jungle, and we had about 500 plus children with us that boarded. They were boarding students, and we didn't. There were a few that were orphans. There were some that were orphans, but most of them came from villages where there was no access to education or medical care. So we had a lot of, we started schools there. I'm an educator, so I trained teachers, and we both trained leaders. And he oversaw the building sites because we had lots of homes going up and lots of medical facilities and schools that had to be built, and so that's what we did. And we cared for children. We provided medical care and education.
For the young people on the call, it's in Borneo. Closest closest part of to Malaysia is Sarawak, right? Kuching. Would you say that's the closest city?
Kuching, Kuching was the closest. We lived about 440 kilometers south of Kuching. So just draw a straight line down right onto the middle of the map, essentially, if you look at the island of Borneo, middle of nowhere.
It took about 12 hours to get there from Kuching.
Driving?
Yeah, driving.
So is Kuching the easiest way for you to fly there, or?
Yes, yeah, Kuching would have been the easiest way. You could also go by Pontianak, but Pontianak, it was also 450 kilometers inland from Pontianak, so it was a 12-hour drive to any major airport.
Okay, great. We'll come back to that later. Actually, a little bit. Can you share a little bit about for Ben and Rachel how you a little bit about your education background, like so that the young people know. I mean, what does it take to be doing what you're doing now?
We both have a little bit different journeys in our education.
Okay.
I think for me, first of all, school was extremely hard for me. So high school was, and I just remember thinking, Lord, just get me through university. Show me what to do. And I didn't actually know what to study. I went to community college for a while, got my general education out of the way, because that's how we do it in America. You have a couple of years of generals, and then I had lots of friends and family members who said, you're a really good teacher, because I always taught Sunday school. And they said, you're a good communicator, you're good with kids, you should be a teacher. And so I said, I couldn't figure out what to do. So I said, well, I'm going to do what people say I'm good at least. And I just went for it. I just was like, I prayed about it, and I was uncertain, but I felt direction to do it. Not that I knew if I was going to do it the rest of my life, but in the end, after going to Borneo, I was like, thank you, Lord, you prepared me. You knew all along. He knew, and he got me on the right path. So I went to the University of Utah, and I got a bachelor's of science in education.
Yeah, so I had a slightly different educational journey over the years. I never liked school, but I liked learning, and I finished high school, and then I actually went and I did a little bit of business school. I did a little bit of Bible school, and then I did a trade school. And so I actually got a certificate in refrigeration, and I went into restaurant equipment and espresso machines, selling coffee. Very much more hands-on, technical kind of person, working with more skills in my hands. But then and so that's how we ended up in Indonesia. It was a project starting from nothing. It was just a jungle area, and no electricity, no running water, just a complete village. We bathed in the creek, and stuff like this. And then we built up the place. So it was a great use of my skills of building and of I have electrical background, the refrigeration background, the mechanical background. And so bringing those skills into that situation. But then over time, as I've changed roles and done different things, I went back and I got a bachelor's of theology, and then I completed a master's in organizational leadership as I saw how God was using me more in areas of leadership and working with other people. And so in our organization, we have a strong value for lifelong learning. And so we've just tried to follow that. It's like we just continue to grow. When in the season that God's called us in, then we spend time learning. What does God want us to know now? And those things compound and they build off of each other to continue to prepare us for each new season that God leads us into.
Yeah, actually, along those lines, I'm actually in school getting a counseling certificate too. So it's a 2-year program. Just
right
to
now.
continue and learn for the things God has me doing.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep growing.
So you don't have to go to some school before you go on to the field. You just kind of jump right in. Is that what happened to you guys?
That's definitely what happened to us. I mean, we did some studies, and I think there's an element of knowing scripture and having awareness of your skills and what God's called you for, and you find what fits. But then as you grow and as the Lord leads you, you have to also adapt to those changes. So it's a bit of a both and. I wouldn't say you have to have everything figured out right away. Allow God to lead you in the journey, but then everything that God leads you in those steps and the progress that you take, come back to be a skill or an experience that you can add to what you do in the kingdom.
And can I add one more thing? I mean, I do a lot of pre-field work. So people who are about to go into ministry, I work a lot with them. And one of the things that we're seeing overall in ministry and missions particularly is young people who come onto the field spiritually unprepared. And so it's like a battle of, you go on the field and it's just a spiritual battle. There's warfare sometimes. And if you're not really firmly grounded scripturally, you can be very challenged. And we do encourage younger people, get a year certificate in Bible school. If you're going towards ministry, get a year or 2 year at least in theology, biblical foundations, things like that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Now, before I move on to the other panelists, can I ask Ben and Rachel? I mean, how did you figure out that this is what God calls you to do? Like, when did that happen? Like, were you together by then, or were you separately? Yeah.
Yes and no. I think, Rachel grew up in a strong Christian family. I grew up in a strong Christian family, but I had some really challenging years. Let's put it that way. And so the Lord had to do some work in my life, and then I had to, and that then shifted. So there was a sense that we had a call to missions young. So we got married at 19. But we were walking with God. We were both in ministry within our local church, leading youth, leading outreaches, leading short-term missions trips. And as the pieces just came together, both from what Rachel said earlier, people speaking into our lives and identifying gifts, identifying skills. So pastors, friends, close people that we trusted, that helped. And then also our own seeking God and saying, God, what do you have? And just being on the lookout. God, where are you leading me in? And we ended up getting a brochure on my desk. I was running a coffee shop as an outreach for our community. And I picked it up and I said, oh, that's where we're going. That's what we're doing. Yeah. And so it just kind of like, it clicked at one point, but it's been an ongoing journey that's kind of been revealed over time and with the input of family and friends and, trusted leaders.
So the material that you picked up at the coffee shop is for Indonesia?
Yeah.
We at that so just so you know, we had been praying. We were well connected with World Outreach, and we had been praying. And my sister's in-laws actually invited us to Vanuatu, and that's really what kind of really opened the door. We had been taking youth on trips to China and Mexico, and when someone actually said, "We want you to come do ministry with us in Vanuatu," that really made us go, wait, actually, we could be going, and maybe we should. And so we were praying through lots of places. And the doors were closing, and we're like, no, actually, we shouldn't go there. We shouldn't go to Vanuatu. We shouldn't go to Burkina Faso. We shouldn't go here, here, here. And then we were like, great, now where? And that we saw that pamphlet, and it's like the Holy Spirit just spoke. But I also wanted to say, even before all that, before we got married, I grew up as a missionary kid, and I didn't really want to be a missionary kid or missionary when I got older. But the thing I was definitely is that I was surrendered. I said, I don't want anything but what God wants. And I think God can grab anyone for anything, whatever He's calling you. If you're saying, I want whatever God has, it means you're saying, I want the best for my life, whatever that be. And He'll use that in ministry, in business, in medical, in anything.
Thank you, Ben and Rachel. With that, can I move on to Daniel and Carolyn? Can you identify with any of Ben and Rachel, what they shared, or did you come at this very differently?
Yeah, I wanted to run away. I'm a pastor's kid, so I didn't want to be any part of ministry anymore for the rest of my life. The dream was always to be in America or Australia, marry a white girl, and live happily ever after. That's the dream, right? Or the prayer was marry an international girl. Well, God did fulfill the dream. He did marry an international girl. But yeah, I think when I was studying in KL, I think getting planted to a local church, I think that's very important for any young person who wants to consider ministry, or I'm sure by now you might have a calling in your life or a hint of it. So planting in a local church, just working with youth, and even though I was in campus, I was involved in all these different ministries and all. And yeah, the passion began to grow again. But I think what really made the difference are the support from people that really believe. And I just want to take this time to honor Dr. Chua and Rina, actually. I was just telling my wife briefly, I remember when I was leaving to KL for studies, this was like about 12 years ago. They actually blessed me financially, and they actually was just more than just positive reinforcement, but prayers after prayers. And you remember that, Dr. Chua and Rina? It was just, I think they were a short stint. They were my youth leaders for a while.
We remember praying for you, Daniel.
Yeah, and so I think those little things made a huge difference in my journey, discovering more about God. But even then, yeah, I wanted to choose other things, so I went to pursue. I have a media background, so that's my studies, mass comm, advertising, and PR. I went to that. I was in TV. I was doing a couple of shows. I was in radio, and then I think that's where the call got greater. I was happy at where I was, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled, and this was something, and I made a very dangerous prayer. I said, God, what's next? And so here comes the call, and again, I say this very carefully and with wisdom, knowing the call of God is really when you have been walking with Him, reading the Bible, that's where His voice gets very recognizable. And so I remember that time, it was a reminder again. I remember God saying, I want the best years of your life, and are you willing to go all the way? And the first person that came to my mind was my then girlfriend. And I said, hey babe, I said, I think that the calling is getting greater. And I think one of the things that why I fell in love with her was because I think one of the challenge or the things that we talk about in our jokes and everything. I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe I might be a pastor one day. She's like, yeah, sure. I don't mind being a pastor as well. So I was like, okay, yeah, let's go, babe, let's go. So yeah, basically that was our journey, and I think for me, why I chose to come back to Alostar, I think God has always placed this burden in me. So I think for everyone out there, it starts with paying attention to how you can help wherever you are. And so even though majority of the people are saying that, Daniel, you're wasting your talents, stay in KL, leave Malaysia, I think for me, a rebel at heart, and also hearing from God, there's always a burden for my city in Alostar. And I think just paying attention and working in, like what my wife mentioned earlier, I was a youth pastor at my church called Collective. Working with them, I began to realize actually a lot of these local kids from smaller cities like Alostar, Kelantan, Terengganu, some from Penang, or maybe Malacca. Whenever they come KL, I think the whole culture, I wouldn't say it's a shock, but it's just a whole big amount of cultural references, cultural ideas that just bombard them, and I think they can get easily swayed. And so I think that's where I begin to just pay attention, and I realized that, you know what, I think if they would really know who Jesus is back in high school, I think we could really solve a lot of these problems. I think back in KL, one of the things that my wife and I used to do is actually counsel young people who change courses, like changing their underwears, like because they have the access to finance, hey,
the option.
like, what are you doing right now? I'm studying for medicine. Next thing you know, like, pastor, I want to change something else. I think I want to do media, and the next thing you know, they want to do music. So I think choices today are a beauty, but it can be a curse as well. So I think for us coming back to Alostar, that's been our calling as well, to really rebuild the city as well. This is one of our visions, to really rebuild the city, because dreams and visions are just the beginning. It takes hard work and people to actually build a city. So I think there are a lot of undiscovered potentials here. And so that's why God has called us to come back again. It wasn't an easy journey. There's a lot of push and pull, a lot of, by God, maybe Utah would be nice. Maybe Montana, the mountains of Montana, snow and crystal clear waters would be nice. But yeah.
We have a super hot all year round.
Here we are in Alostar. It's hot. It's burning hot. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Daniel, I want to come back to you, but maybe your wife can talk about her journey.
Yeah.
Because I want to come back to you later, and you can maybe think about this. You mentioned something that you don't want to be a pastor growing up as a pastor's child. Maybe you can elaborate on that later. But go to your wife first, Caroline.
Yeah, I'm not from a pastor's family. Okay, my parents, my dad were a Catholic. My mom was a Muslim, converted to be a Christian when I was 5 years old. So I went to children's church. I served. But when I was 17, I really discovered God. And since then, I actually always knew that I love being in church. I just love being there. I can be there from 7 until night. And so I always know that I always want to be in a full-time ministry. So after high school, I told my dad, please send me to a Bible school. Yeah, so but I think this is quite similar to most millennials, young people nowadays. Like when you ask your parents, I want to go for this direction, or what should I go, like we are so bound by our parents' direction. Not that it is bad, but my parents say that please don't go there yet, maybe next time. Take something that is, you can make money first. So I took business course. I
Make money.
I went to KL, and I was planted in a local church. It was Collective, back then was City Harvest. And so I always want to work in church, but my dad always say that, no, you can't make money there. Your lifestyle is high. how are you going to live your lifestyle and all? But I realized that when I was in KL, I see how my pastors were and how the leaders were, how they are so passionate for the young people. And back then, right, I was just like a lot of young people, right? And I saw how they live okay, not like in Indonesia. I feel like most people in a full-time ministry like so miserable. Sorry. Like, you know, they can't have this, they can't have that, they can't do this, they can't do that. But I see that, you know, like it's really not about how you live, what car you drive and all, but how you live your life, how you spend your every minute, every day. So it really changed my mind. And I met him. I met him then when before we were together when I don't know about it. Then I was like, yeah, I always want to be in a full-time ministry, but I don't know where and what kind of ministry. Yeah. So that was my I was involved in Indonesian ministry for many years. I was service assistant for everything. So I basically like run the church service. Um and yeah, that's how I know I do everything. I do ushering, I do media, I do everything, but I don't know but I don't know it next. I don't know what's next. I was working in church, but in a not in a pastoral uh it's a business side, because I was like running the daycare. Yeah, so I was like here and there until I met him, and he was quite sure that okay, I'm going back. I'm really going back. Okay, fine. Then let's pray about it. Let's talk to pastor. Let's plan and let's plan when and how are we gonna go about it, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's about this how we started. But
Yeah.
for me, I never knew that I'll go for that direction. But from this, right, like when I'm in Alosta right now, we hang out with a lot of young people, and they're like 16, 15. When we ask them, what do you want to be in the future? Where do you want to go after high school? Most of them say, I don't know. Whatever my parents say. Oh, my parents say accounting, I'll go accounting. Oh, my parents say lawyer. Okay, I go I go to study law. But we realized that, you know, like being an accountant and lawyer, and to go that direction, you don't really have to introduce them, you know. They see, you know, oh, accountant make a lot of money, or lawyer make a lot of money, but they're never exposed to other kind of career and opportunity that, you know, you still can be successful in the marketplace. So that's why we do our ministry. That's why we start our church. So we start from scratch with, you know, very minimal resources. Like we now just started our we just got our location. So they see how we build stuff. They see how I started the media of the church. They see how we started a podcast. So we actually have a podcast. This podcast called Soul Food. We talk about culture, relationship, and also mental health. They see that, and you know, we need designers, we need caption writers, we need video editors. And then so these young people, they see how we do that, you know, like things that they don't see. Usually they only see accountant. They see their parents and their relative have business, you know, like run like a store or whatever. So that's how they know that, and they know that's how they knew that how their life might be might going to be in the future. But we want to introduce to them like there are a lot of ways. So
I think one of the major issues is the fear of not making money in the future
yeah,
that parents and a lot of people have if you chose this career path. I think we all want to encourage our young people, you know, that becoming a pastor or full-time ministry or missionary, whatever that may be, really has to be a choice that you have to make. Because at the end of the day, we believe that one of the greatest gifts that God has given us is free will. So it has to be your choice. And once you make it, you know, you put your hand into the plow, you don't turn back. But also then is understanding, you know, how your ministry and dynamic is like. I think there's a lot of fear at times. I think like what Choon asked earlier, why I didn't want to be a pastor in the future. Very simple, because being a pastor, there's no money, right? You know, there's no money becoming a pastor. And this was an old mentality back then, you know, to see your friends have brand new sneakers, to see your friends wear the nicest, flashiest clothes. And here you are wearing pasar malam goods, you know, or from a bundle store. And I think the peer pressure is real. Even as adults, we also have peer pressure. And I think this is something that's very real today. So, how I always encourage people, not just young people, is that if you look at the ministry that you want to go into, it's just like any career, just like a person who want to start a cafe from scratch. That's their passion, right? They're going to go through the hardships and all. Same thing. Just as that lawyer who wants to start his own law firm. Maybe daddy has money for him to start, but it's still hard work. Got to start from scratch. So a pastor as well, wherever you are, that God has placed you, or you're in a mission field in Indonesia or Thailand or Vietnam, and there you are, then you just, if that's your passion, you go all the way. And also, I think we are very careful. I think one of the things that we are very grateful for as leaders and mentors around us, because I think this career path or this career choice, in ministry is, I think a lot of people will say that, one day you cannot get out of it. You must do this all the way till you die. I think it's a lie. You don't have to do it all the way. I think if this is the season that God has called you to be in, are you faithful to serve God in this season? So you can be a missionary today, you can be a pastor today, but tomorrow you want to own a cafe, sure, man, go ahead. But have you done your duty? Is everything done and finished well? So I think, some of these things need to tweak and change as time goes by to really understand. So I think today, even for ourselves, I want to say bivocational, but we are not. We're just full-time doing everything, because we are just full-time teachers in a homeschool, full-time in the ministry, full-time this, counseling people and all. So we're gonna do what we do to keep the dreams alive and all, because at the end of the day, it's really a lot about hard work. So, and what also helped me change my perspective, that to come into the ministry again, is all about people. People who like Ben and Rachel. Why would they give up everything in America, and come to Malaysia and be here, as half Chinese. We will say things like, oh my gosh, it's like 4 times in America. Why would they come here? Malaysia ringgit like so big, and I think that's a lot of parents have that mentality as well. So Hokkien will say, kwai kwai ah, zao ki Singapore, ki KL lah, mai tui lai lah. That kind of thing. So we want to really break that stereotype. And I believe God has brought us back to really change that, because I think you can be wherever you want to be in this world and really make a difference. So that's from us.
We believe that wherever God sent us and wherever God is present, right, that place can be prosper. For many years, right, people always say that Alosta there are no future. It's just a small town, or this shop is prospering, it's gonna close down soon. So we're hearing that a lot. So what we want to do is we want to change the mindset. We want to allow God to really change the mindset that, if you actually invite God in your life, if actually you invite God in your career, in your business, right, you can prosper. So that's what we really want to do in here.
So just like that person who wants to start a cafe, nobody will understand. There's so many cafes, but hey, what's so different about your cafe? It's just that person who wants to start their own law firm. There's so many law firms. What's different about your law firm, right? So the objective, the mission, I think as you begin to grow with people in your community, study, understand, you get a clearer picture.
And how did we know that we want to do this? Because from young, I always think about, I always want to make a difference in people's life. I love it when I journey with someone and I see changes in their life. For Daniel, it's a different story maybe, because he memang he has really have a lot of love towards this city. So like for us, how do we know? It's because we think others. Because you want to see the changes in this place and the passion in us that God has placed in us since very young. So if you want to know, like whether a full-time ministry is for you or not, whether it's really God's calling or not, really spend time with God, get to know your passion. God has placed a passion in you and things that, give you spark, that make you happy. So
Yeah, and I think
I can definitely see the sparks in the two of you.
yeah, there's not always spark all the time, but I want to reiterate what Rachel said earlier. You know, that 1 year. I think for some of you, you're going to finish your SPM or your IGCSEs real soon. Why not take a gap year?
yeah.
I challenge all my students, take a gap year, go for a mission field work.
Mhm.
There are organizations like I'd like to get to
Kuilan.
know Ben and Rachel more, but their organization, there are organizations like Youth with a Mission, YWAM, you know, they are Penang as well. You know, I think that will do a lot of perspective
Yeah.
and hard work. Hard work is in HEART.
I think the challenge about young people nowadays, because we have quite a big range of options. Like most of their parents are capable of sending them anywhere they want, and study anything they want. And whenever we ask them, what do you want to be, they don't know what they want to be. So
They want to be a gamer full time.
yeah.
They want to play.
Why not, right?
Okay,
Caleb wants to be a gamer full time.
yeah, Daniel and Caroline, I'll come back to you for a second. I want to swing over to Joshua in Manila. Joshua, can you share with us a little bit how you jump into what you're doing now? It sounds like you were going to go down this path of being a doctor, and then something happened.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. How I got into it, I would not say God called me. I'm more like Isaiah that I was looking at. I was looking at what's going on, and then it's like God is saying, I'm more towards Isaiah that said, Lord, here I am, send me. And more towards like a Nehemiah, where he was like, if you look at chapter 1 and 2, God did not call him to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He was like, the walls of Jerusalem has fallen down. I love God. I want to do it for God. I'm more of that kind, like, Lord, the world is in need. There are people who don't know you. Like just now, Ben and Rachel was talking about unreached people groups. That's what really moved my heart. And I believe that was what convicted me to say, like, Lord, if I call myself a believer that I love you, I would want to obey you and go to the ends of the earth. Actually, I wrote an article before, which is called The Great Commission and the Great Commandment. And I believe that ours is not being instructed to go. We are being commanded to love God. And out of that love for him, we go to love the nations, not with our own love, but his love for us and for the people. So it's more of a duty of love. And how I got into this, when I was young, like 4, 5, 6 to 8 years old to 9 years old, my parents bought me books like Jim Elliot, Hudson Taylor, Adoniram Judson, William Carey, Amy Carmichael, Mary Celeste, Gladys Edward. You name any of the missionaries, I've read all their biographies when I was in elementary school or primary school. So it's no surprise that I would want to grow up to be a missionary. The one that was surprised was my parents, because my parents were like, you want to go from medical course to something of what they call glorified beggar, where you beg for money, but in a glorified manner. Okay, so I went from that, a very drastic change. So it was surprising for my parents, but for me, it was like, you bought those books for me, so don't blame me. If you don't want your kids to be missionaries, don't buy mission books for them. So I don't really have a call of God. As and I read those storybooks about, I love Jim Elliot. He said this, no voice, no dreams, just a heart that desires God. And that's me. It's that I did not have a voice of God, no dreams, no specific special calling, but Lord, here I am. Use me in whatever means. I have this skill, use it. And then another one that I really like is William Carey, where he said, we need an open Bible and an open map. A lot of people, I realize, we open our Bible, but don't look at the world like, God, where am I needed? We just pray high in our closet. We don't go out and say, Lord, where do you want to use me? We don't go out to look at the walls of Jerusalem that have already fallen. With 4.6 billion people in the world that are considered unreached by IMB, International Missions Board, we could see that the need is great. If we open the world map and look around us, there is where it is. That's the call, if we want to look for a calling. And a lot of people always ask me, what's my calling? I would say, Matthew 28. If the Bible itself is not enough to call us into God's work, what will be enough? If the Bible itself, Acts 1:8, Matthew 28, all of this is not enough to call us and compel us who claims that we love him, what would be enough? A pastor's preaching will not be as strong as the word of God. So for me, I don't really say that I have a calling. I would say I volunteered to go down this path. And I actually started the journey very young. A very common question people also ask me is, do I regret giving up medicine and do this? And I would say, yes, I do look back and I do have that feelings of regret, but I do know that I'm not going to turn back. Just like Eric Liddell, a missionary who went to China, later on, before his death, people did interview him and ask him, do you regret? He said, as a young man, we have feelings, I regret. But I do know what I left behind is nothing compared to what I can look forward to in eternity. So for those young people who are listening to this call, I would say, you only have one life. How are you going to live that? Because the next life depends on this life, how you're living it out. So go all out. And actually, one of the things that I like watching movies. One of the latest movie series I like is called The SEAL Team. I'm not sure who likes watching it. The last episode, the commander said something very, very strong. One of his team members was saying, it's such a hard choice, hard decision to make to go out to the battlefront. And then the leader was like, in the line of duty, there's no such thing as a choice. It's our duty of love for God. It's not a choice whether we want to do it or not want to do it. If we love God, we will do it. That's the thing here. Yeah.
So Joshua, how did you so you were studying, and then what happened? What brought you to the Philippines? Yeah.
I would say it started gradual. When I was 18 years old, when I was in Methodist College doing my A-levels, I went out for short-term mission trips. So those actually left an impact on me. Actually, after my second mission trip, I actually wrote in my journal, I will not be a missionary. But I don't know what happened along the way, because I still remember the first mission trip was fun. I went out with a whole missions team. So, very fun. We went for a 10-day trip. It was all fun and jolly. The next trip after I came back, I was like, I want to go out again. But this time, no one to go again. So I contacted the long-term missionary and said, can I come over? It was Thai-Myanmar border along the conflict zone, the Korean border. I was like, the missionary was like, yeah, sure, come. I was like, okay, I will go alone. And going alone was not fun. But that gave me a glimpse of what it meant to go out long-term. When you go out short-term, a whole team with you is so fun, really. So after that experience, I was like, God, I don't want to be a missionary. This is not easy. I'm not sure anymore. But as I journey along after my A-levels, Typhoon Yolanda, or better known as Typhoon Haiyan internationally, struck Philippines. It was November, if I'm not mistaken, it's November 8, 2013. After it struck, it was a world record typhoon. And during that time, I was like, God, I was going to study medicine. I'm a trained first aider. I was trained in disaster response. I was like, Lord, here I am, use me. So I jumped over here, jumped to the Philippines, and never turned back. It was not an easy journey. Actually, out of it, I wrote a song. I was actually given an offer letter to study medicine. And I was like, Lord, I really want this. It has been since my 12 years old dream, I want to study medicine. But then if you're calling me down this path, so be it. So I wrote a song out of that experience, and I'm going to put the link into the chat box. So the song is on YouTube, and it was a song that says, though it's painful, but I know that it's the best. Yeah.
Thank you, Joshua. I'm looking at time. We have about 10 minutes. Can maybe I go back to, I open up to all five of you. Looks like
Can
Joshua.
I ask questions?
Yeah, sorry?
Can I ask questions?
Yeah, go ahead. Why don't you ask then, instead of me asking? Go ahead, Daniel.
Ben and Rachel, how do you guys make money? Or how do you guys survive financially?
We actually raise support. So we've developed a network of partnerships over time, and that's how we develop for both personal ministry, living expenses, but also ministry expenses. We raise everything through various partnerships.
Yeah, I was actually going to say something because about that. A lot of people think, being in ministry, first of all, our fulfillment does not come from financial success. Our fulfillment comes from being in the will of God. So that hands down, guys, when you're looking at what you're going to do with your life, money doesn't bring fulfillment. Being in the will of God brings fulfillment. And so you could be dirt poor, super rich. If you're in the will of God, you'll have fulfillment. You can be dirt poor and super rich. If you're out of the will of God, you won't have that fulfillment. So, but I also want to say that in ministry, you know, we have partners. We call them partners. They partner with us in prayer. They partner with us financially. They partner with us just in encouragement and emails and support, ministry. And those people, when we invite them into what we're doing, they're blessed by the Lord. So we look at it this way. We look at it as people who financially support us. We don't look at it like, oh, we're beggars asking them. We look at it as we invite you into the blessing of the Lord to be a part of what we do.
To use their gifts, their skills, the things that God has equipped them with to sow into the kingdom. And we just get to become the channel of that expression, or the outlet of that expression in that. And so it's a combination. The whole church to the church, we have to all be involved in doing it. Otherwise, it's not gonna take place.
So it's a different outlook on finances.
Right.
Way.
Yeah.
I think actually it makes a big difference if you're worried about finances.
Yeah.
Right.
I think Joshua is slightly different, right? You actually use your skill.
Yeah, I want to jump into this question. Actually, I'm also on support raising, but because support raising is hard, especially during COVID. So one phrase that always moved my heart is Hudson Taylor: God's work done in God's way will never lack God's supply. And I've been on the field for the past 11 years, and I have never had lack. I'm proud to say I've never lacked. All throughout all of my 11 years on the field, it was always been support raising. It is very challenging in the beginning. It's really like, Lord, I don't know should I really do this, especially Malaysian, Asian, and I was very young. And then I still remember some of my church members was telling me, don't know whether this guy is real or will we go up 2-3 years and get back home already? What are we really investing into? But after a few years, they saw like, it's the real deal. This guy is not ever going to come back. He's out there. So partnerships slowly come in. And then from there, it started to build. And then for the past years, as I expand my ministry horizon, it feels like as I expand my ministry horizon, because I feel God leading me into that way, missions is already very, very financially heavy, because you need to raise a lot of money to live in a foreign nation. And then God was calling me to media and missions. Media equipment is so expensive. I'm like, God, are you kidding me? But then you know what? He didn't fail when he led me into media and missions. I have some of the very advanced and up-to-date media equipment, from cameras to audio to lighting, and he provides. And since I have that skill to do it, and as my ministry is expanding, I need higher budget. So what I do is I have skills. I start to run sideline jobs and then see that if I can provide services to mission organizations or what. So from there, God provides. So there's various means that God can provide. And I would say we should not be afraid to say, like, Lord, if you're leading me down this journey, should I look at money or not? Yes, it's practical to look at it. But then the thing is, trusting in God is practical also. Because we cannot call ourselves a Christian and then like trust in God is not something like a belief. It's something that we need to live out. Otherwise, it's not a belief system anymore. It's just theory. So
I like that, Joshua.
what we say, I like what Hudson Taylor said: God's work done in God's way will never lack God's supply. And the second statement he also said was this: I have learned to move man by prayer through God alone. So that has been, Hudson is one of my role models. That's why I'm in the mission field, actually. Yeah.
So Daniel and Carolyn, back to you guys. How about your situation? How does that work for you to support yourself financially?
We are slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
For us, when we came back, I think our perspective is more of with whatever God has given to you in your hands, how do you use it? You know, there's a verse that says, you know, about the talents, right? And the master gives the servant the talents. So we use whatever we have in our hands. So before we came back, we sold off our car, we sold off whatever necessary to run off the ministry. And yeah, definitely when you are working in the will of God, definitely God will provide. But of course, there are moments that are scary. Not going to deny that. If there are some people who are very blessed. They come from organizations that are wealthy organizations that can support. So they are well taken care of. For us, it's a challenge because we are also young and we want to do this as well. And moving back to Alustar, and so yeah, we took it a challenge to think about like, hey, if I am a young person today who wants to again open up a workshop, open up a media company, what am I going to do? And I think there's so many people out there who have gone down that route, with whatever God has put in their hands, and they multiply it. So I think we are just faithful with whatever God has given to us.
When we just started, we actually had support from Mother Church for the whole year.
So the support was
Only
given for 1 year.
Yeah. Then after that, actually, but with that, before we move, we always have this objective, right, and goals that we want to give to church instead of getting from church. Yeah. So that's what we always aiming for.
Yeah.
So and God has been good. Actually, we are actually working in a homeschool. Yeah, where we can meet young people, like we are in the same proximity with young people. We can actually reach out to them directly, and we got support, not so much, but yeah, we have. So Daniel actually he has mass comm background, so he will take a side job sometimes to MC.
Yeah.
And all those
So I
things.
think these are the things to keep the vision alive or the dream alive. I think the beginning, this is what you got to do, find all these other jobs elsewhere.
And he's really good at emceeing and talking.
Yeah.
So we since the MCO started, just like what Joshua said just now, it's harder, to even tithe and offering is not that easy. But so we know that Daniel is really good with emceeing and conversation, all those kind. So we started a podcast. Yeah, and this is where we want to move this towards how can we actually bring finances back to church instead of we taking from it. So from this podcast,
Basically I think that's that. This is our journey currently right now.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of young people, today, or even for my time, the concern has always been finances. That's why I asked Ben and Rachel this now. I think as missionaries, going out there, and yeah, I think back again to growing up to see the reality of things. Sometimes I think definitely it would take a while to begin to understand that everything will be provided by God, and from God. And I think that it's a journey of, I think our Christian faith is, if it's everything's going to be smooth sailing, I don't think we'll be a skilled worker for God at the end of the day, right? So I think the whole things that we go through, like, seeing our friends having all the fancy things, seeing all this thing taking place, all the nice travels, all the nice cars, I think these are the real things that people face.
But it is true, like what Joshua said just now. Even until now, we have 2 kids. We have 5 years old and 2 years old, and until now, God never forsaken us. We always have enough, not just enough, actually more than enough to bless others. But sometimes we pray that God please take care of us, but sometimes God is actually telling us, hey, what I already given you, what do you have right now that actually you can give. And you can actually live. God give us a talent. We give Daniel a talent. And then just a few years ago, I actually get to know this Korean couple who actually taught me how to cook some Korean food. Then I know how to make kimchi. So I thought, I know how to make kimchi. I have some free time sometimes, like in a weekend. So I make kimchi and I just sold it. Then, from there, I give time. From there, I actually hang out with people. I met new people, these customers, where sometimes they ask me, what do you do? And I told them that I'm a pastor's wife. I run a ministry. And that's how we get to know new people.
Oh, by the way, the Korean couple is also a Korean missionaries.
Yes. Yeah.
So they were here in Malaysia. And I think it's funny how God connects people together, in a very bizarre way. And again, walking in his will, really taking that bold step. There will be scary moments, but God will always be with us.
Yeah. One thing that I've been hearing from all of you is there's nothing there's no common thing in ministry. It's very organic. It's very happening. It's sometimes it sounds to me as sometimes people want to hear this loud voice of God saying, do this exactly this for like the next 50 years. But based on what I'm hearing from the five of you, that's not how you guys experience it, but it's actually one step at a time. As you walk, things happen. As you find money, like job, that leads to your ministry, and the ministry leads to finances. It's like everything is intertwined, and that's how God works, I guess. Ben.
Just jump in really quick. It was actually said by Joshua a few minutes ago, but it's about loving God and loving people. And as we walk in obedience with God, the expression of our love for Him begins to outflow through the various things that we do. So all of it is ministry. All of it is an expression of that to God. So whether you're teaching in a school or whether you're running a church, you're supposed to be doing that from an expression of love for God and for people, right? The Great Commandments and then the Great Commission flows out of a Great Commandment because God's loved us. Now we love in return, and we're compelled to go and bring out this good news of redemption that we have been blessed with. So it is a bit of a circle in that sense. And I think that's the commonality of what we're talking about here is, Abraham in Genesis 12, you hear the stories of Abraham, and he went to lands he did not know because he heard the Father speak to him. God spoke to him, and I'll show you where to go. Very few people, I think, in more of modern days, have like this really clear sense, I was called to this place at this person or this city, this environment. It's more of an unfolding revelation, unfolding vision for what God's called us to. It's about continually, daily surrendering our lives to God and listening to His voice and walking in obedience to Him.
Okay. We are running a little bit past time, but I think this is good discussion. One thing I want to leave behind as for us to think about, especially the young people, is that this thought of, not to, I guess to me, the question is not whether I should be in full-time ministry or not, whether God is calling me into full-time ministry or not. But the question is, do I love God? And do I trust God? Would I want to obey Him? And whatever road ahead of that God puts in front of me, I will take that step. And like Daniel, he thought he's going to go to Utah and marry some white lady, but that didn't happen, but it ended up better, right, Daniel? So I think I want to leave this behind with the young people tonight. I think the question is not whether God is calling you guys to full-time ministry. In fact, I believe God is calling every single believer to full-time ministry. And that full-time ministry may be a lawyer, maybe a teacher, maybe a doctor, maybe a pastor, maybe a missionary, maybe a media production company. To me, the question is not whether God is calling us full-time, but are you willing to obey and trust God and go on to wherever God leads you and make full use of your skill and talent, right? If God calls you to be a lawyer, then, do that with passion and don't forget to love Him. So I want to thank all the panelists for all your sharing tonight. For the young people, if you want to connect with any one of them, you can either talk to me or Auntie Rina and Suin or Auntie Janice. We can link you up with the five of them. Maybe Daniel one day and Joshua, maybe I can get you to come back and help me with some of the things. Daniel, maybe you should, instead of me facilitating this, maybe you should be the one facilitating the coffee talk.
Suhin is very quiet tonight. Actually, he's a very good facilitator.
Yeah, we take turns. So In fact, I'm facilitating this session. The next one, I'm going to ask them to do it. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Let me just have a quick prayer, and we'll end this coffee talk session. Father Lord, thank you for what a blessing that we have tonight, Lord. Thank you for each and every person that as part of this Zoom call, and also even for those that will be listening in the future, Lord, that you will use what we have shared tonight to really speak to the listener, Lord. Lord, you're always reaching out to us one way or another. And Lord, thank you for all the young men, young lady, and for the older ones like me here, that you have been loving us, and you have the desire to guide us and lead us. And Lord, I pray that we will all, everyone here, have this obedient heart that is willing to trust you and obey you and move forward. Thank you, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to go to Philippines is a bit far for me to travel. Maybe I will fly there. But I want to go to Alostar to meet you, Daniel and Carolyn, one of these
You come
days.
with us tomorrow.
Hey, Caleb, I see you tomorrow, okay, Caleb?
Okay. Thank you, Joshua. Thank you, Ben and
Bye.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.